the Lord appeared to me supernaturally in 1978. I knew nothing about Jesus at the time. Jesus was as far away to me as the man on the moon. I never thought of him seriously, Tom Anderson. He never entered my mind. But I was going through a difficult time in life. I wrestled all through school. I was a very committed athlete. I trained like a professional. And when I walked off the wrestling mat after wrestling my last match in high school, I realized I was going into a world and wrestling didn't mean anything anymore. Like in high school, that's all I saw. I had one goal, to be state champ in my weight class. And I didn't think beyond that. And my whole world was in my weight class. But after I walked off that wrestling mat, after wrestling the last match in high school, it was like, okay, what's next? And I was completely unprepared. So I went off to school, University of Tampa, on a small wrestling scholarship. I never did become state champ, but I got to the place where I felt there wasn't anybody I couldn't beat. So in my own mind, I was kind of living, with that type of victory in my mind. But again, when I walked off the wrestling mat, went off to college, it was like I was dealing with a huge world now, not a world of 119 pounders, but I was dealing with a world that was bigger than I was. I wasn't in control. And I just went into a tailspin. I lost my identity. I was overtaken by fear. I spent as much time as possible just sleeping to escape the mental torment I was in, because I didn't know how to get that sense of security and peace of mind back that I had when I was wrestling. Eventually, I dropped out of college. I thought maybe if I made a lot of money, it would help to ease some of the pain. And it was in the time period where I was doing a business. I was working on a business that I went to sleep one night. And in the middle of the night, I was awoken from my sleep. Again, no one had ever witnessed to me. I had never read the New Testament. But in 1978, at 20 years old, I was awoken from my sleep in Cleveland, Ohio. And Jesus appeared to me in a vision. All of a sudden, I was aware that I wasn't sleeping. I was aware that something was going on. It was like a heightened sense of awareness. And then in color, Jesus appeared on the cross. And I could see the people around him in the distance. And then a ray of red light from straight to the sky, from straight above, even above the blue, beamed down on his head. And when I saw that ray of red light beam down on his head, I understood that the light was coming from God, and that the Lord was showing me that Jesus was the way to him. So that's how I came to faith all those years ago. I actually tell my whole testimony in a book that I wrote called Called to Breakthrough. My parents actually hired kidnappers. Now, they were deprogrammers. My parents flew them in from California to Cleveland. They basically abducted me and took me to San Diego, where they tried to rehabilitate me to, get me out of believing in Jesus. My parents were so panicked by it. And then when that didn't work, my parents hired a Jewish psychiatrist to get me probated to a psychiatric ward of a hospital in Cleveland, Mount Sinai Hospital. So as a Jewish person believing in Jesus, it's a very shameful thing in the Jewish community. And my parents did everything they could to try to stop it. But here I am, over 40 years later, been married for over 40 years. And, the Lord's opened up a large ministry for me. Well, it's all about the blood. If you look in the Hebrew Bible, the only way that God's people ever had forgiveness with him, and the only way they were ever able to enter into a relationship with him, was through a blood atonement. It began at Passover, when the Jewish people applied the blood to the doorpost and judgment passed them over. On Yom Kippur, they brought the blood into the temple, into the Holy of Holies, and God overlooked the sin of the people. The Torah says the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I've given it to you on the altar to make an atonement for your soul. And there's much more to it. But I would say to somebody that's listening right now that has never committed themselves to Jesus, to Yeshua, I would encourage you to research what I'm saying. The blood is the only means. The life of the flesh, the scripture says in the Torah, is in the blood, Leviticus 17:11, and I've given it to you on the altar to make an atonement for your soul. For it's the blood by reason of its life that makes atonement. The only way a just God can forgive sin is when an innocent one's life has been given in place of the guilty. That's why there was all the sacrifices in the Hebrew Bible. The innocent animal died and shed its blood on behalf of the guilty. So right now you're hearing my voice and you're just hearing it. It's truth. It's just fact. It's truth. And you're saying, you feel in your spirit, this is truth. Just open up your heart right now and say, God, I don't know and understand all this, but I just sense that what Rabbi Schneider is telling me right now is real and it's true. I'm asking you to come into my life Forgive me of my sins, draw me to yourself, and save